Hi, I'm Rigger, and sometimes when you're right, you're right. And I was right. And to discuss that more, welcome to RWBY episode 5 of volume 9. Woo! It's a big one, and it's good that it happened now because we're at episode 5 already. We're already halfway through this season. So it's the halfway point. If something big's gonna happen, it's gotta start happening now. You gotta get that hook in for the second half. And yeah, I think we did that. Developments have developed. So, we got a lot to talk about. If you're new around here, this is a thoughts video, so it's not a reaction, so you do need to have seen the episode to completely get what I'm talking about. But either way, let's dive straight into this, because we got so much. I'm really wondering if we should do it in order, if I should just jump to the end and talk about the thing I really want to talk about. Okay, so change in protocol. I've never done this before. We are changing up the format. If you watch these videos, you're supposed to have seen the episode already, so spoilers, whatever. We'll go through the plot and stuff later. We're talking about the end first. Okay, we're opening with the ending, so if you don't want to see it, you haven't seen it, look away now. And bam! Someone pick up that phone, because I called it, I said it from the start, and I kept getting people saying, nah, it could be this, nah, what about that? No one really commented on it, and I said it from the start. Jean, he's looking a little wiser, because with age comes wisdom. I said from the start that time is gonna be a thing here, and it just got reinforced over and over, like when Ruby fell and Neo fell at the exact same time and landed at different times. Jean fell last, so of course you'd think he'd be there first, but then they don't see him. So is he gonna be really late, or did he actually get here before everyone else by a long time? And it seems like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Just what I thought would happen. I told you in the opening. He becomes a shadow of himself at the face of the clocks. I know everyone got hung up on the 11th hour thing, but time. He became a shadow of himself in front of time. And look at him. He's a man now. His armor is rusted and old. He has a beard, long hair. He has creases under his eyes. I don't know how old he's supposed to be here. It's a little hard to tell with RWBY characters anyway. But, he's definitely the senior of the group. He has been here for a long time. This man, I don't know, is he in his 30s? I have no idea. But he, wasn't surprised to see them. He was seemingly waiting for them. Which means that his purpose, which is something we'll talk about a lot, seems to have been defined. But he, yeah, he's changed a little. And it's really cool, and I really like this, and also really sad. And, yeah, next episode's gonna be crazy. I just want to talk about it up front. I'm so proud of myself. For the first time, I made, like, a bold prediction. Like, you know, it wasn't crazy, like, with no evidence. I just went, here's what I think's gonna happen. I think this is gonna be the thing. And I kept saying it, and I kept saying it, and I kept saying it, and no one really talked about it, and yeah, called this one. I love this development. I think it's going to be really cool. I can't wait to see where they go with it. I actually really hope they don't undo it. There's a good chance that they do, or whatever, but I hope they don't undo it. I'm fine with this. This is really cool. Sucks for Jean to have lost a huge chunk of his life doing this, but you know what? They're fighting against Salem. Their life expectancy isn't too high anyway, so he got a lot more life to live, and he lived it in a fairy tale, so cool. Not that I talk about it much, but I guess if you're into any ships with Jean, I guess things just got real awkward. So, anyway, I think this is really cool. Interesting he's still using his broken sword. I thought they might do that. I'm stunned. I think it's big development. I think it's cool. I can't wait to see what the discourse is going to be. I'm sure there's going to be some wild takes. But, anyway, we'll start the episode off properly. I wanted to gush. I felt good about this one. I finally got something properly right that was like a proper prediction that wasn't given away. Yeah, this has been the pep I needed to my early AM recording. Anyway, let's back this crazy train right the hell back up, and we'll talk about the episode in order while I stew on my thoughts. So, we open with the cat. We do a lot of exposition, and the cat even makes a joke about it. Again, the cat is super meta. But I'm glad the four of you are still the four of you. That's not always the case in the Ever After. and they get into a talk. To sum it up, they get into a talk about death in the Ever After and what happened to Herb, because there was debate on that. Did he just leave? Because he sort of opened his mushroom that way, but then he went through the floor, and everyone went, oh, he got swallowed up, and then people went, no, he was just leaving. Well, you were both sort of, well, I guess you were both sort of wrong. He went back sort of by choice, but it was his time. That apparently in the Ever After, when you have fulfilled your purpose, or your purpose is no longer needed, or once you lose your way enough, you are recalled to the Ever After, where you are rebuilt. Perhaps you will be the person you were before. Perhaps you will be something completely different, with a new purpose. And there is no death. Really, well, we get to that. There is, sort of. Basically, in Herb's case, he had gone too far off the path. He had no heart left in what he was doing, so the cat lent him a bit of his. And when he had that little extra heart and those little extra feelings, and he could understand what was going on, he realized it was time for him to go. So he went back to the Ever After, and he will, in time, be reborn as something. Something with perhaps the same purpose or something different. That is what happened to the Red King. He couldn't handle it after he lost to Alex, so he was recalled to the Ever After and remade as the Prince, who had a different goal. It wasn't to play the game. The Prince's goal was to win the game, which is why the Prince cheated and did all these other things. So that's a pretty interesting approach. I kind of like it. It has some very interesting implications about death, and apparently Alex had similar thoughts, and we're getting some big Alex teasers and stuff, so it's pretty interesting. And a specific of that is that any of these, they won't remember. They don't remember their past life. They have a new one. Although the cat contemplates that perhaps the heart remembers a little, which is why the prince reacted how he did. He didn't remember the specifics, but something about his soul, spirit remembered. But yeah, so very interesting ideas. And then we finally gave the Jabberwocker some threat, some menace, because I've complained that he's really been made out to be a joke. Like, he's meant to be the great beast of Wonderland, the Jabberwocky, the unkillable, except for the Vorpal Sword. So, you know, this huge threat, and so far he got punked out, like, twice. And he shows up here, and he will be punked again, but we recognize his threat, which is if the Jabberwocker eats you, you don't come back. That's death. Ever After does have a death, and it's that. So, that's pretty interesting. It's definitely something that adds menace, so even if he's not the greatest fighter in the world, or he's not the most deadly thing, if he gets you, you're got. So I like that, and that means he has a role. He's the cleanup of Ever After. He does serve a purpose. He's not a corruption, he's just, that's his role. He's keeps everyone on their toes, he's the predator here, and he cleans up loose ends and puts an end to certain things that need to be put an end to, apparently. So that's really cool. But there will be more twists and turns with him when we get there. But yes, we get a lot of exposition about exposition, and the cat saying that exposition is boring, which I don't think is the right message to send. Exposition doesn't have to be boring, and exposition can sometimes be necessary. It shouldn't be avoided at all costs. It is required. But we did get some. And being stuck on a lily pad making a journey and wandering through a place you don't know is a good time to do it, and fun visuals in the background to look at while they talk. So, I can't say they did it badly. Although the cat is purposely confusing, as is the cat's way, with what he says. Lots of allusions to Alex. So then we get a split-up mission. They're trying to make a parfait to make them grow, and they have to get certain ingredients. The cat's going to get all of them except one, and he sends RWBY off to go get them, and Ruby and Little go, and the other girls stick with the cat to make sure the cat stays on track. So some very fun visuals with the cat. I love him walking off the table and just continuing. That's great. Anyway, something happens here. So Ruby is walking through the market, great market, and the lights start going off. The world starts going dark, although you get the feeling this isn't real. And it is real, but it's not happening for everyone else. Everyone else isn't leaving. Ruby has wandered into something she shouldn't have, or has got the attention of something. And that something is the smith. You hear the clanging and the banging. And it's here where Ruby peeks ahead into a tent and sees a much-anticipated blacksmith, the assembled lady. And what draws her attention is Penny's sword. It's just popped up again. And it's just hanging in the storefront window, so she picks it up, and the weaponsmith, the blacksmith, says, "Oh, is that the one that interests you?" Ruby responds that she thought it was lost forever. And the smith very poignantly responds that nothing and no one is ever truly lost. And that seems very important when we have reflections of Penny and some other people coming up. So nothing and no one is ever truly lost, I suppose, in the memory, in the soul. But very poignantly, the smith is making weapons and giving Ruby an option. Because the smith was acknowledging and has recognized that Ruby carries a very large burden with her. And Ruby defaults to, I'm fine, I can handle it. Which we have seen that does not seem to be the case anymore. But that's, of course, her response. And the smith, very interestingly, says, if you ever change your mind, you can take any one of these with you, meaning any of the weapons. And when Ruby checks her hand, the Penny sword has become Alex's knife from the story. The smith said you can put your burden down and choose any of these. And now she is not holding Penny's weapon, she is holding Alex's weapon. And sees, where she did see a reflection of Penny, she now sees a reflection of Alex. And this seems to imply that right now, with Penny's sword and becoming Alex's knife, that they're equivalents. Like, that is Alex's knife for her in the story. So if she is going to continue this way, she'll have to find Penny's sword and use it how Alex used her knife and continue the story. Likely finishing the same way she finished. Perhaps that's going back to Remnant or whatever. Or you can choose another weapon, another path. And that instead can be what you want to do. That's who you are. You take that burden off and pick up a new path. And it's no coincidence that this is in the episode where they talked about what happened to Herb. That all these beings are remade in a new image, in a new self, and perhaps their purpose is the same as before, or perhaps it's changed. They are remade, they are made anew, and they forget their old life, because what would be the purpose in remembering it? And it seems this is a similar offer. Continue your path, or put it aside and pick a new one. And this is literally it. And I think there's a really good chance that the blacksmith is an embodiment of the ever after. It is literally a function. It is crafting the new path, the new things for you. You know, you couldn't go find the blacksmith if you just wanted, but you can turn up there when it might be time, maybe even time to choose if you want a new path or to stay on the one you're on. And the smith forges it for you, and the options are in front of you. And it might not be a smith for everyone else, if that makes sense. Like, this is what Ruby sees. And she talks about her weapon. And, you know, well, she says, I did have a weapon. And the smith says, and yet you're here searching for things you don't even know. So, yeah, you have a weapon, but it's not with you anymore. Is your purpose still with you? You're searching for something else. You don't even know what it is. And Ruby is drawn to the axe gun on the wall, which is very much a Crescent Rose simile, as I've said before. It's quite close to the weapon. It's a long-range barrel weapon with a hooked blade on the end. You know, it's a Crescent Rose. Similar design, similar idea. It's meant to allude to it. And when Ruby checks that reflection, she sees Summer. And Summer's eyes glow and freaks her out a little bit. And while we're here talking about crazy predictions, I said that I thought there was a chance that Blacksmith was Summer Rose. And, I mean, again, she has no eyes. They look like they're silver eyes in one shot, but I think you're actually seeing the inside of her head, because in the other shot she definitely has hollows for eyes. So I don't, maybe not, but, I mean, still almost think there's a chance. But, I don't know, we'll leave it there. I'm sure someone's going to take that screenshot and say silver eyes, but if you check the other shot, she has holes for eyes, and I think you're seeing the inside of her head, so it makes her appear like silver eyes, although that probably is slightly on purpose, because we're about to see silver eyes when we see the image of Summer. And so we have Ruby faced with a lot of stuff. You know, her reflection in Alex. Is she a reflection of her mother, too? Is she seeking her mother, or is she seeking to be like her mother? Is she seeking the ideal that her mother chased, that she wants to carry on in her name? You know, the whole hero thing. Maybe. All of that's pretty on the table. And this ends the discussion. The reflection of Summer's eyes glow and flash, and Ruby is back in the market. And it's like it all never happened. So we were definitely speaking to someone more powerful and important than someone at the market. But anyway, they go to make this parfait, and they said you gotta make sure you eat the right amount, because if you get too big, we gotta make another potion, and that's completely different. And they do that by coming across a teapot lady, and she has the last ingredients they need. However, time to panic. Jabberwocker attacks, so the market this time really does clear out as everyone scrambles, understandably, because they can actually die from this thing. So it turns up and it attacks, and the teapot lady begins to run. She sucks in all her goods and starts to run, and they fight for the one thing they need, but she says, no time, gotta go, and they won't let it go, so Ruby decides on a trade. And what she trades is her rose emblem, and she says it carries a mother's promise. So Ruby has given away an emblem of herself. She is giving away parts of her identity. A mother's promise, you say, is it that she'll always love her? Is it that she'll look out for her? Is it that carry this and you'll be safe? Is it that what did her mother promise her? We don't know, but something motherly. Something big just happened and we don't have all the details. But in an episode where Ruby was questioned by seemingly something quite powerful, that she should or could put her burden aside and take another path, and seeing images of Alex and images of her mother, and being told about in the ever after you can become someone completely different, and Ruby in a split decision giving away a connection to her mother who means so much to her, giving away a piece of identity, giving away her emblem, giving away part of herself, part of what makes her her. I think that's pretty significant, and it's gonna be interesting when that comes back, I think. If we are slowly picking away Ruby Rose, she's lost Crescent Rose, she's lost her rose emblem. What will she lose next? Her cape? I can see her losing her cape and cloak, her hood. I reckon that might be next. We start stripping away parts of her identity and stripping back the character until whatever's left is left, and then Ruby will have to choose. That seems like what's going to happen. But anyway, can't do it now. Jabberwocker attacking. Deal with that later. So, the big, scary, purple people eater. Literally, I like it now, because if it eats you, you don't come back. It's a purple people eater. Lovely. It attacks, and they fight it. Unfortunately, while they're trying to grow in size, and it's not an exact science, so they're taking different amounts to try and make them the correct sizes, they get attacked by the Jabberwocker, and it gets some Parfait splashed on it, causing it to grow in size. So now it's a bigger threat. That's not good. They go and fight it, they fight it, they get back to their right sizes, so that's done, and they beat it, and Yang gives it a good old punch in the spine and shatter. It's a Neo illusion. But that's very interesting, because it's a Neo illusion, and we know that they're physical, and it raises several questions. So, the Parfait worked on it, so it made the illusion bigger. It didn't, thin it out and make it weaker. It seemed to have the effect as if it was a real being. That's interesting. And also, is the threat still there? If it eats you, do you still die? Because it's not the Jabberwocker, it's an illusion of one. It's a simile of one. So, does the threat exist? Because they act like it does, which means that Neo's copy is not just a copy in image alone. It's an actual copy with powers and abilities that it is supposed to have, or Ever After's making it so, which is terrifying when you think of what else she could make. What if she made 20 Cinders under her control with maiden powers? Would that apply? Or is it only Ever After things? When the Jabberwocker, if it is death, well, that could be really bad, because that's exactly what starts happening as many Jabberwockers start appearing. And that's really bad. But we do have a surprise guest, as making an entrance astride a jackalope is the Rusted Knight with rusty armor, and it's Jean, and yeah, he helps in the fight. And very interesting what they did here. Actually, I need to check something. So I actually had to leave and come back for a second. I had to check that was Miles doing the voice, because it doesn't sound like Jean. It's a completely different tone, and they definitely used some effects and stuff when he was in the helmet to hide it, which was nice. Although I did think it was silly how long it took the girls to realize who it was. I mean, he's wearing Jean's armor, with Jean's emblem, with Jean's weapon, and it's broken. And, come on. Especially for Weiss, who saw all that. So, anyway. But either way, they're in the middle of a battle, whatever, we don't cotton on immediately, and they run away. They have no choice but to run from the Jabberwockers, and the cat enlists the help of a bird to fight them. And there's a very interesting line here that I'd like to point out. The bird was wandering around trying to sell mud cakes, I think it was, for you see him several times the episode. And the cat says, I gave him something new to do for the moment. The cat gave him something new to do. A new purpose? Is the cat capable of that? I mean, self-preservation, I'm not sure they have to stick to their purpose to the letter. I'm sure if the Jabberwocker appears, you're not supposed to just accept it and, die. You can fight it. But the cat says, I gave him something new to do for the moment, and now the bird is fighting. And it sounds like the bird might have died. We don't see. Very, very interesting. Fitting with the theme of being old and rusted and broken, I do also think it's interesting, I'll bring it back around to Jean still using his broken sword, which is a very, I guess, anime is not the right word, a very folktale thing to do. The knight with the broken sword, and rather than repairing it, they continue with their broken sword. It's a reflection of themselves, they are broken, all that. But anyway, so all the Jabberwockers come up, and they have to flee, and they flee to the top, where they see the poor teapot lady crying and distraught, which is sad. And maybe we should keep track of her in case we want to get that emblem back. And Weiss having a little breakdown, saying, I am so tired of leaving places in ashes. And that really makes you feel for her. I mean, she did just lose her entire home. So, And that's after Beacon fell. So, lots of stuff. Point is, we come back round to Jean, where all the girls realize it's Jean, and Jean says, Team RWBY, you finally made it. Also, Jean comments that there's only supposed to be one Jabberwocker, so we have that confirmed that there aren't meant to be multiples running around, so, yeah, just in case. But, yeah, so Jean is an adult man, and he has a lovely beard, and long hair, and rusted armor, and he fights atop a jackalope that does have a name. It's named Juniper. Yeah, he named it Juniper. Who's crying yet? Holy shit, he named it after his lost team. That one hurts. Anyway, Jean has been here for a long time and has taken the role of the knight who seemingly fights off the Jabberwocker, who is the hero, the in-universe hero who roams around and helps. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. Very interesting if Jean will come home with them. And if he comes home like this, what will he be? He might be a much, much, much better fighter, There was no hesitation about that boy. Not that there was before, but come on, he definitely fought incredibly well, and he's throwing himself one-on-one against something that can kill him forever in a place where that's not normally the case. Yeah, very, very interesting. He definitely seems like a hero, and he's had an emotional bond with Juniper that seems to be his way of holding on and keeping track. Team RWBY is stunned, which is fair, and a goddamn called it. Oh my god. This is the kind of development I wanted. This is the kind of thing that really shakes things up, that really puts a new perspective, that for a character that we all love, but we don't have to see every step of that journey. We didn't have to see him for years. That was the thing. Some people were talking about time, and someone said, Team RWBY, what if we were stuck in Ever After for years? And I said that's unlikely because we'd have to see all that development. You have to go on the thing with them. It would be really cheap to go, they're in Ever After, and then 20 years later, and they're in Ever After and adults. It would feel strange to do it with the whole team, who we know so well, with 4 characters. But instead, we have just one, and it's our side main character, our second main character, which people don't like to hear. And I mean that in I consider all of Team RWBY the main character, because there isn't really, despite RWBY being our focal point, there isn't really one main character. But Jean has been there every step of the way, and done the whole tour and journey with them. But it's fine for him to get this big off-screen leap, because he can talk to Team RWBY about it, and we can learn about it, and it's understandable, and we know him deep enough and emotionally enough that we can make assumptions, but also we can evolve him and step him up and really change the dynamic there in a natural way that doesn't feel forced or unearned. Because we saw the journey he was on, and now he's totally different. Oh, and everyone who complained about Jean's hair, well, your boy's looking real good now. It's quite the look. He's the old mentor now. Great warrior. I love this. This is fantastic. I have a big smile on my face, and not just because I called the thing, although I called the thing. Great episode. Very interesting. Stakes went up. Things have developed, and we're only halfway through. Although we're already halfway through. It's going so quickly. I said on Twitter that I really wish we had a mid-season break. It's something that we used to get all the time. But with this being a shorter season of only 10 episodes, and with it being such a big, dramatic season with real developments happening, and being such a wild season with so many ideas and things and craziness to speculate on, if the show stopped here for 2 weeks, I would have loved it. 2 weeks to let people talk and speculate and go crazy about this, and then come back. Because Team RWBY, or just RWBY season, it's all gone so quick. It's been like 2 years waiting for this, and it's only 10 weeks long with no break. And it's all going too soon. Because this is the kind of thing I miss. This great ending to an episode that gets everyone hooked, and then bam, break, and then everyone can speculate on it, and the whole community blows up, and it's full of love and expectation, but also theorizing and so much desire to see what happens next. So much want to find out the consequences of this. The only thing I'll say is don't undo it. That's my big thing. Do not give Jean an out. Don't undo it. I want to see him back on Remnant like this. I want to see what happens. And, I'm down for that. I really want to see this development be a development that doesn't have an undo button, that doesn't have whatever. I mean, there's an idea that maybe Jean resets, that he goes back to Ever After and comes out something new, a totally new person, but then you have to meet a whole new character and get to know them, and then it's not really Jean. But, no. Let's keep this. Let's keep this and stick to it. And I'm so excited. I'm so happy. Hopefully you all are too. Hopefully you all love this as much as I did. Hopefully you have a lot to talk about and speculate on, because I definitely missed some stuff. This is one of those ones you need to go back through and check the background and check all those things. And also, there's lots to discuss and talk about. So I'm going to end it here. And I really want to hear what you guys have to say. This was excellent. Jean is the man now. Literally. And until next time, my name is Rigger. Hope you had a wonderful day, because I did. And I hope I did alright.